Welcome everybody to the King Moolah TV podcast. I'm your host, King, and let's jump into this topic. So this might be a big one. That's all right. I'd like to talk about what's wrong with society. This could be a lengthy episode, depending how far I want to stretch it. But there's a lot wrong with society. Honestly, you could teach a master class for like as long as a semester about what's really wrong with society, but it really boils down to like it. But honestly, it's all connected in some way, form, or fashion. And I think a lot of people have good ideas of what they want society to be like, but they're too afraid. At least from what I see, they're a bit too afraid to implement these things, even in just their own local areas, like not even nationally speaking, just in their areas, or actually, I could probably go even smaller than that, just in their house. Like they won't even implement that in their own house, let alone being an advocate of a more humane society or anything like that. So, what's really wrong with society is um, just a lot of old, outdated ideas that are still running this world currently. People that sit at the top are the quote unquote elites, is what they're mainly called, usually unnamed, but I mean, people really know their names anyways. It's not hard to find out their names, and this, that, and the other. Typically are of a wealthy status. Well, all of them are. That's why they would call them elites or one percenters or whatever their case may be. But they're wealthy families that are at the top that control all the news medias, all the brands out there, especially in the US of um all the products that are categorized as food, this, that, and the other, typically made of old white men, um, you know, of that nature, and how they view and how they want to control society with these outdated ideas, these harmful ideas, these inhumane ideas and concepts that they are continuously using to control the population. And it's a very big thing that I feel like people really need to actually start taking action towards, because everybody's going to complain that they want a better world, but they don't want to be the one to do it, because it takes all of us, a collective, at least a good chunk of us that will actually want to see that change and actually put in the work to do it. Because a lot of people, they don't really think for themselves, or they hear a good idea that they might align with, but they're too scared because of, they don't want their lights to be cut off, or their phone bill, or they're afraid that they might get homeless, or there's a lot of valid reasoning in those. But at the end of the day, you're gonna have to sacrifice something in order to get something back. Like, that's just how it works. You cannot be afraid to um, have these ideas and be afraid to implement them into your life and advocate for them wherever that you go, because that means that you're just not um, focused enough, or actually not strong enough to actually hold those ideals in your everyday life. So I just feel like if you're gonna say something, just be that. Don't be afraid to want change in your own communities. Like I say, it doesn't have to be nationally, but nationally is what we're gonna have to attack eventually. But locally, we can start just in our homes, and if when our homes are situated, then we can start in our streets, our neighborhoods, communities, and then we can go into our cities, our regions, our counties, and then we Once we get those situated, then we go to the states, and then we go to multiple states, and then we pretty much are going national by that point when you're going into multiple states. So, federally, locally, state, and federal, that's at least for the United States. This is exactly what you should be trying to implement for the into your daily life. So I think what's wrong with society is that we have all these great ideas, and I've seen countless videos on these great ideas when it comes to tax, when it comes to politics, when it comes to freedom of expression, and a lot of great concepts that would push us forward as a race, as a human race, and push us forward as just people in general, and how we are supposed to treat each other, how we supposed to live with our everyday lives, how we make it easier, how we make it better, how we make it a lot more sustainable than what it is now. Because pretty much anything that any idea that really can push society forward, just implementing just using a quarter of your work ethic just to implement that into your daily life would be a lot more substantial in our growth as people in this world than just not doing anything at all, because it really shows that we really want to change for the better. Like all the things that are going on around the world right now when it comes to inhumane treatment, slave labor, child slave labor, around the Congo, the war in Gaza, a lot of the canal in Haiti. There's a lot of injustice everywhere, but you got to be willing to stand up for a lot of these things. But a lot of people do not want to do that. Okay, everybody's so stuck on being afraid, and they don't want to do anything about it. So these old rich white men that want to run the country and keep it how it is, we got to do better as to identifying these people and giving them just continuously identifying, so that like when we see them, then you know what time it is. But it is like it's ridiculous how this has gone on for this long anyways. But I know it won't happen overnight, but honestly that's usually when the spark comes. The spark can come overnight, but like the events that unfold can stretch out as long as decades or so. But honestly, we can, like, these changes, these things can happen overnight. Absolutely overnight. The spark to ignite the movements that we want for a better humane society, they can happen overnight. Absolutely. So what's wrong with society is that too many people are afraid, or too many people are too distracted by the nonsense, the toxic trash that we see in our media, in our everyday lives, or people just wanting to be distracted, people not wanting to deal with their emotions, people not wanting to deal with their pain. These are what I would call taboo topics, because everybody knows what they are, but nobody really wants to put in the work to actually make themselves better, because making yourself better is one step towards making your society better, your area better. And a lot of people do not want to do the work because they're just so worried about everything else that they really should be worried about themselves, mentally and stuff like that. And not to say that it's only themselves that they should be worried about, because on the flip side, all that they are worried about is themselves. But what I mean by themselves, when I first said it, is that they're not actually putting any effort towards helping their environment and wherever that they're at. They're not actually helping themselves to help others, because when you help yourself, because when I see it, it's like when you help yourself, you're more likely able to help others when you have the knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and putting them into practice. So I feel like a lot of people aren't doing the work. A lot of these are just topics for people to go on podcasts, say what they want, or being distracted by podcasts. That's another thing. The podcast I feel like it's reached their limit, and a lot of people should not be just joining podcasts just to say, just to spout toxic nonsense and then try to distract people or try to get famous, because attention is a hell of a drug. That's a really big problem within society and within social media, that everybody wants to be famous, everybody wants to go viral, and it's not for the right reasons. It's not for anything great, any humane work that they're doing. They just want to get viral just to get paid, and that's it, and then live their life, and then the rest of the world can crumble. Like, that's not how you should ever be going into these things. That's not how you should be going into anything, honestly. But there's certain things that you can, some things that you can't change or control, because that's just, the issue is way bigger than just you, and that's fine that you can't change and control it, but you just gotta play your part and actually do what you need to do, and stop just not putting no real effort into like making yourself better or making the environment better. Like, it's just a lot of problems. I see pollution, and we can get into the environmental problems, a lot of littering, pollution. I look around the areas that I'm in, and I see pollution. I see people just throwing stuff out when they can easily find like a trash can or a recycling place. Now, we do need more places to recycle. That's honestly something that I want to see more, going forward into 2024. But I feel like a lot of people aren't um, actually putting in the work. They're just throwing them on the side of the road, or throwing them in the back of their neighborhoods where there's like streams and lakes and stuff like that, and making the environment look disgusting, and making the environment more harmful for not only them, but for the wild, not only for the wildlife, but for also them. And they don't even realize it, because they're so focused on just grab and dump is what I would call it. Like, they grab whatever they want, they consume, and they dump it, and then they don't really care how it affects the environment. They just do it because that's the society that we live in. It's a hyper consumption society. A lot of these things that we consume and that we put our time and energy towards, they're for non-essentials. They're basically useless to us in getting better. They're just here for us to consume, and here for us to not put in any work, or just to make us feel good for the moment. And honestly, a lot of these topics and stuff like that that I'm about to bring up, they're very uncomfortable. They can get very uncomfortable, but you got to be used to that uncomfortability, because once you start getting comfortable in these things, then you start realizing, you start believing that things aren't that bad, even though the world is on fire. Now, there are some bright spots, of course, that there are, in any place. With every place has their problems and their pros, their cons, all of that. But you also have to take into account how society has gotten worse, or yeah, absolutely worse. Um, and this saying that I hear everybody say, is going to get worse before it gets better. Well, it's already gotten worse. So when does it start getting better? And the reason why it's still continuously getting worse is because nobody's actually taking a stand about it. And the biggest thing is that you can get, like, people will get mad for like maybe a week or two, or you could stretch it as long to a month, or maybe even 2 or 3 months. And then they go back to their regular lives, and then, like, as if nothing ever happened, as if the cause is out of their hands, or that they really don't feel like they can do anything about it. This is the big problem. Is like, when people stop talking about it, then it seems like the problem has been solved, when it hasn't been solved at all. It's just stopped being talked about. And once it stops being talked about, then it pretty much gives green light to corruption, to do whatever they feel like to increase the problem. Even though it's become increasingly visible to everybody, it's a big problem, because nobody's actually taking a proactive stance towards solving it. They're just more reacting to what it is. I really don't like this, and then, but I still got to go to work at like 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Still got to feed my family, and this, that, and the other. Which is, I get feeding your family and this, that, and the other, but you're like, the food, especially in the U.S., is a big problem too. Obesity rates are very high. Disease is very high. um, poison, slow poison, the consumption culture of drugs and alcohol is very high. It like I said, I don't think it can get any worse than this. We've already seen the worst of the worst, and when it comes to forms of entertainment, musically for hip hop especially, it's gotten terrible. Like with the promotion of degeneracy, ratchet culture, or just ratchetness in general, it's become an all time high. Like I don't feel like you can get any worse than that. In certain toxic reality shows, um, this is being glorified. The the culture of degeneracy. Well, degeneracy has no culture, but in order to make it more concise, I would call it that, because it is still a category of something that we need to be able to identify. So I would call it I would call it a culture, because it's something, it's full of a lot of traits and characteristics that is problematic in our society. So we have to absolutely categorize it and be able to identify it so that we can find ways to solve it and move on to better things. Because look, we already know taboo topics: racism, sexism, classism, um, you know, all those isms, and a lot of the problems within society pretty much stem from those, and pretty much have those type of problems, excuse me, that have those type of traits, have the are pretty much doused in every part of our society. It's like embedded, like racism, sexism, classism, all of that is embedded in our society. But racism being the biggest, because it pretty much trumps everything, and it shows that this is really how society is moving, and it's been like this for centuries. And we have to break these cycles. We have to keep calling racism, all of that, out on its neck. We have to keep calling out these harmful, outdated ideas, um, on why this is no longer effective for our society. We want better. We need to do better. That is exactly what I'm going to dive into next. Like, nobody's working now. There's um, a lot more sensitive topics that I will bring up. I'd probably go more in depth, but I'll just highlight some things like um, the mass incarceration, heavily embedded with racism, systematic racism. This is what we call institutional racism. Um, you know, and a lot of people think jail is somehow going to solve the crime and this, that, and the other. No, jails are overpacked. Private prison is booming, and you're just throwing away people, because prison and jail is supposed to be rehabilitation, because everybody has made mistakes before, and a lot of people just have not been caught. But it's everybody's made mistakes, or a lot of people have been protected from spending the rest of their lives, or practically almost the rest of their lives, if not maybe just a little bit of time in jail, to rehabilitate themselves into being a functioning member of our society, an able person who is an upstanding citizen in our society. I think the problem is, like, a lot of people see jail as this fix it all, but it doesn't fix anything. These prison conditions are very horrible. A lot, especially when I heard about what was happening in Mississippi. Yeah, like, the prison conditions are terrible, and it's really, really bad. And a lot of people don't really, like, they may see it from time to time, but they really don't do nothing about it, or they're really not trying to get involved. And I feel like you got to get involved at some point somehow, even if it isn't in your state. You speaking mainly for the United States, for those who are listening internationally, you really have to put into perspective. In your state, it's probably not as, probably the same, maybe just slightly better or slightly worse. So I just feel like for this, I feel like, do we really want to minimize the amount of murderers, thieves, drug dealers, molesters, pedos, creeps, perverts in society, or do we want to just emotionally like bash these people and not help? Like, there's a lot of bashing going on when it comes to criminals and criminal activity, and but and honestly, I feel like everybody is a criminal. Everybody has done something criminal based on the laws that were put in place, and is mainly the laws were mainly meant to protect real criminals who ran this country into the ground, who profited immensely off of this, off of free labor from slaves, from black slaves, descendants of Africans in this country, black Americans, their ancestors, and everything like that. So I'm just jumping from topic to topic because I'm really just trying to hit all the most of the points that I want to hit. But that's pretty much what it is, and I feel like a lot of people are desensitized towards these laws, and how these laws don't make sense for a lot of things, and are really just used to put black people down and a lot of other minorities in this country. And it just really shows that they really don't like black people, but they would love to appropriate any way that they can or make a profit off of any of our cultures, whether we be in black, whether we're black American, you know, um, Nigerian, Haitian, Jamaican, um, Trinidadian, you know what I'm saying? Just like in the black diaspora, if any way how they can make money off of our exploiting us, exploiting our cultures, exploiting the black diaspora's customs, cultures, and all that, and our music, our what we like to do, how we set trends, they will do that, and they have been doing that for so long, ever since the internet came out, ever since the social media has been a big thing, you know. So I feel like everybody is not really, like I said, I'm jumping from topic to topic. So like I just jumped from mass incarceration from to just into social media and the bashing. I might just jump into relationships as well. But like I said, we have this very weird thing where we like, I'm not above it all at all, you know. But I feel like I've actually put my money where my mouth is. I'm not above criticizing or you know, sometimes not giving some people some chances, but there's some people aren't redeemable, but that's all for another episode, and I might explain why. But only it's because if they're a repeat offender. If they're a one-time offender, man, give them some slack, give them some information to make them know better, give them this and that and the other. So um like, nobody wants to work towards a better future. Everybody wants to hand off the work to somebody else, or think that somebody else should do it. But no, you are responsible. Actually, you are at fault for the way the world is. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about me. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about all of us collectively. Know this is how the world should not be. Know how we should be able to change it for the better, but we're not trying at all to change it for the better. And that is a really big problem. So I feel like when you need to um, see what's going on with, when you see news and you see people trying to speak out, when you see a lot of performative activism, when you see a lot of people who saying something but you really don't see them after like the issue has died down, you already know that it's not, that they're not really putting in the work to do anything. You know, they're not really here for actually making the world a better place. Some people actually are working against being proactive into making the world a better place because they like it the way how it is, because of the money that they make, the how they're comfortable with how things are, because it doesn't affect them as much, or they're actively participating in the destruction of society. So they really are happy with the way things are. And honestly, that is probably probably a really big thing that is keeping the way that things are, because like I said, it's a bunch of factors that all trickle down and all intertwine and interweb with each other. Um, but I'm only just highlighting a few of these things, that because we can go really, really deep. Like I said, you could teach this type of thing forever. What's wrong with society now? What was wrong in the past? You know, for like the past 2,000 years, you can say that, and you can keep going, and you can be like, what could come of the future, like predictions. Like I want to do that too, like predicting what could the future could be like, would be like, and what it's realistically showing like it's gonna be like. So we can get deep. We can bring statistics in here. We could do all different kinds of things with it. It's I think the biggest thing is that you can do these things, but a lot of people will not put in the work. A lot of people do not want to put in the work for doing anything substantial, putting actual work towards each other, doing actual all right, so look, people need to stop acting like they really are about change, are about major changing their lives and changing the world for the better, if they're not actually putting no work towards it. Like people just are on here on podcasts or on whatever type of media form just to talk. They're not actually here. There's some people that want to inform. There's some people that want to, play the role that you can play, because I'm talking to people of many different ages, backgrounds, and cultures, and this, that, and the other. Play the role that you can play, that you're able to play, because some people are really, really young, but don't ever think that you can't make a change from anywhere in the world that you are. Okay, we are meant to be creatures that are evolving into better versions of ourselves, so we can continuously evolve or devolve depending on how just the way that society is looking. People are devolving into mindless bots and not actually doing anything substantial with a supercomputer that they have in their hands. Yes, I'm talking about a phone. When you mean supercomputer, these things are really, really fast compared to the first phones that we had out with touch screens, and compare them right now. These phones are all super. They are really, really fast. It doesn't even matter if you have a low end Android or anything like that. These phones are really still pretty faster than the first touchscreen phones that came out. And, all the information that we have access to, we need to take the responsibility of ourselves and informing ourselves, educating ourselves to the right information. Stop with these misinformation that's going around. Stop with these fear mongering tactics. Stop with these the politics of Democrats and Republic. Like I said, for my international speakers, I'm mainly speaking of US of A because that's where I reside. So that's the big thing I feel like people really need to take into account when they're speaking on how to change the world, how to do better within themselves, within their communities, how to get the support, how to maybe you have a small team that works on these things, and then a small team turns into a bigger team, and a bigger team turns into an organization. The organization, focuses on changing the worlds with what the resources that they have, or the amount of support that they get. And I feel like there's no work towards a better future without work. All this stuff is work. You can break it down. I know all these problems seem to be so big, but honestly, they're very little once we start chipping away at it. The problem is nobody's picking up the tools to chip away at it because we're just so focused on being distracted, focused on so many different things that honestly, ultimately do not matter, because this is artificial. Artificially inflated, hyper-inflated economy, society. Now I'm really expanding it towards the world. Of course, I'm more focused on the US of A, but this can be expanded out into the world, and how we all consume so much content that it's just ridiculous why we do not, have a better world already, but we're too focused on being selfish, or focused on wanting to be distracted, focused on just the wrong things that are pretty much not helping us, that are counterproductive to our means of progress towards a better sustainable future. So, you know, we got to fight each and every day. We have to make a choice. We have to make a choice. Do we sit back and let the world burn, or do we actually take the time to dose off the fire, to actually, sometimes fire is necessary. Well, actually, a lot of times fire is necessary. It's natural. But the fire that I'm talking about is artificial. It's unnatural. It does not belong here. It's made to be here on purpose. It's made to be here as a means of fear, as a means of control, and not as something that actually helps the environment or helps us as a world society. So I feel like a lot of people need to do the work within themselves to get themselves better mentally. We can bring in mental health, we can bring in trauma, we can bring in, everybody's been hurt in some kind of way, but nobody's willing to do the work to change that. Because once you change that, you start realizing you can do a lot more when you get these things, these problems fixed, these problems solved. And that's really what is wrong with society. And I really want people to actually do better when it comes to society. I really want these people to get better and to join the fight in making this world actually sustainable. There's a lot of great ideas out there. Like I said, it's a lot of great ideas out there. Nobody's willing to implement them because everybody's too scared, or everybody's too distracted, or just people who don't care or actively want to go against making this world a better place because they're just comfortable with how it is. And I feel like that is counterproductive to progressing our society. And our society needs progression. We do not need to regress. We've seen that already. We see that honestly every day in the U.S. of A. To be honest, there's a lot. There's too many distractions out there. Okay, we need to stay focused. We need to find our common goal of making this world a better place. Play your part. Find your support group. Build up your mental health. Build up your tenacity. Build up that fortitude. Build up the foundation of wanting the world to be a better place, especially in your areas. And it all starts at home. It all starts with you. It all starts with me, with us. Just one person with a mic who's willing to speak out. One person with a voice who wants to see the world better. The children are our future. We, the adults, are also need to be a part of the future because they guide the children into making good decisions, to making bad decisions, because there are adults that are making kids make bad decisions. Like I said, a lot of these things that I just brought up, I'm going to go into in separate episodes and this, that, and the other. Okay, so I feel like everybody needs to just focus on and keep going towards moving towards a better culture, even though it may feel overwhelming at sometimes. Of course, taking mental health breaks and this, that, and the other, but we got to stay focused. Okay, change does not come without sacrifice. We need to sacrifice being comfortable and start getting uncomfortable. Okay, we need to see that we really cannot live peacefully or live in prosperity without some sacrifice without some uncomfortability, and without taking no for an answer. We do not take no. We should not take no for an answer. We should not take no for an answer when it comes to building a better society for ourselves, for our children, for society, for the world, for wildlife. This is what it's all about. We got to get better. We got to do better. And that's honestly all I wanted to cover for this episode. I just really hope you guys are having a good day. 2024 is literally less than a day from now. So yeah, what are your New Year's goals? Honestly, you should have had your goals ready, and you should have been working towards them now. You don't really have to wait towards a new year to work for your goals. Okay, you can start now. Always start now. There is no right time. Just start now. Unless there's really something I get like there's certain situations where you might not be able to do something right then and there, but once you get those stuff figured out, at least most of the stuff or the things that you feel like is a problem is taken care of. Get started, like immediately get started. Okay, take a little bit of rest time, but get started. With great sacrifice comes great rest as well. So make sure you're getting the rest that you need, and make sure that you're getting the support that you need and want, and the mental health days that you have off. Okay, so pretty much, yeah, everybody, y'all have a great New Year's holiday. Stay hydrated. Okay, water is very important for our livelihood. Okay, no matter how you drink it, just find a way to get some water in your body. Okay, health is wealth. Mental health is important. Just health overall is important. You all are important into changing the society for the better. Okay, so let's do that. Let's get better. Let's get in shape. Let's do more. Let's read more. Let's get these goals done, and let's make the world a better place. All right. See you guys later.